Tom, the market today is reacting to what's going on. Okay. A day, 2 days, 3 days, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I'm going to go strictly to you here. Do you think if I were to ask you the chances of this happening with another bank that's worth more than $100 billion, the 38 banks that are worth $100 billion or more, what is the likelihood of another bank or two also going through this the next few months? Give me the percentage. What do you think the percentage is? You can say, whatever percentage. If you're a betting man, what do you think it is?
Well, knowing what we know, and ZIRP for so long and such a level of irresponsibility, I think it's probably about a 25% chance.
You think that high?
Yeah.
Oh my God!
I think there's probably a 25. Well, here's it. 25% chance of like a run on the bank and everything else going like this, or do I think there's a 25% chance that there's another bank like Signature that gets a tap on the shoulder? Different question. Is there another bank like Signature that the regulators are going to like reel up and say, okay, guys, we got to read those freaking footnotes and we got to read everything right now? Is there another bank out there that they're going to collar like they did the New York other bank? No one knew about this other New York bank. It was an by the way point in the Sunday news cycle, right? Mm-hmm. And what's this other bank Signature? Well, while we were talking to Silicon Valley Bank, we already knew this was coming, and so we kind of sent a couple of the boys over there to kind of pull them into line. So do I think there's one more? I think there's a 25% chance that there's one more.
Pretty high number right there.
I think that's a very high number.
Yeah.
Barry, I think you may be a little bit more conservative than that. Where are you at with that?
So if you were to, there's a chart I have that I'm gonna send. I'm gonna send it to you, Pat. I'm gonna text it to you, or should I send it to Rob? Is that the best way to go here?
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm texting it to you. It gives a scoreboard. So take a look at that. I just texted it to you, Rob. I think if the Fed did not step in, there'd be 100% chance of this happening. But now that the Fed stepped in with this facility, I think that it is unlikely that it does happen. So I would agree if the Fed didn't do it, very, very high.
Yeah, First Republic jumping around on one leg now.
Exactly.
They're amputated one leg.
Exactly.
Just to be clear here, you're saying there'd be a 100% chance of another bank failing?
I agree with them.
Yes.
But that's what I'm thinking of.
I agree with them in a way where,
take a look at that. That's your scoreboard.
You know why? You know why why I'm on the side of what he's saying right now. If they don't do anything about it, because what this decision did to the other 27, to the other 26 regionals and the number of communities and all the smaller banks, I, as a depositor, said it's going to be fine.
Yes.
The FDIC is going to step in. But here's a question, just like we just found out. What percentage of depositors you think know that the FDIC on their balance sheet only has $125 billion to protect $9.9 trillion? What percentage of depositors in America you think know that?
Zero?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
We all didn't know
Nobody
that. I
knew
just
that.
learned right now myself. Yeah. So that's the part. So you're 25%, even with it happening. Where are you at now that the Fed did step in? But what would you be at? Would you say 5%, 10%?
Yeah, unlikely, because I think there's facilities to get you out of it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have no idea, but I mean, you guys have a lot of credibility here.
Right,
what I would like to avoid is sort of like a self-fulfilling prophecy and be like, these banks are definitely going under, and then the narrative kind of starts happening with that. I like that the fact that the government is stepping in and ensuring people everything's okay.
Right. Why you were going to if you would I thought you were going to ask me, like, do you know of one? And I was going to say First Republic. But beyond that, I agree. I think there's a lot of banks out there right now that are trying to make it right if they're not right. And they also know that the depositors are safe. Because Grandma has put this thing out there, $25 billion in the BTFP.
Yes. Let me ask you guys a question, Barry. This is for you. So this is sort of a naive question because I don't work on bank balance sheets. But, if you're at Chase, if you're at Goldman, if you're at Wells, at BOA, like you're talking about the Silicon Valley Bank didn't have the risk officer or the risk manager even working for the last 8 months. These banks, I assume, are like, alert, red alert. Like, let's make sure we're solvent. Like, are there protocols in place that banks are making sure that they're good to go?
I think that hopefully that's something that everybody is looking into. And if they probably already know where all the bodies are buried, right? Now I think everybody else has line of sight to see that these investments in supposedly risk-free assets that aren't subject to the haircut because of the fact that interest rates have gone up. I think people are looking at what is the percentage of loans that you have that were at very low yields, that mark to market. If mark to market right now, how much would your actual solvency be?
Yeah, I mean, and this goes back to Pat's 4 points of capitalism and the freedom to fail. And the metaphor of the entire 2008 crisis was what? Too big to fail. So I'm wondering, with all this consolidation of banks and Pat saying that we need more competition in banks, what happens if one of these massive banks fails? Like, what happens to the U.S. at that point?
Well, no, that part is when others will come in and pick them up for pennies on a dollar. Right?
Like with WAMU, you're saying.
WAMU, you saw 308, 312, whatever the number was, how much they were valued.
Yeah.
They were bought for $1.9 billion. That's nothing, right? That's pennies on a dollar. WAMU went like this to Chase, and how uncomfortable was the CEO sitting right here 4 months ago? The most uncomfortable meeting that we had, because he thought he was coming here to talk about 7 keys to success, and we talked about how the hell did WAMU, one of the biggest banks in America, go down the way it did. So, yeah, that to me, you know, there's a part where if you're looking at this and whether you agree with the decision or not, you just have to make sure there's not 3 or 4 other banks out there. Because if there is, Tom, FDIC cannot do nothing. It'll be another quantitative easing, 3.0, 4.0, whatever you want to call it.
Super TARP.
And this time around, it will not be a small number. This time around, it's going to be a couple $1 trillion if that happens again.
Yep. And the banks every day, and this has been part of Glass-Steagall and a lot of other regulation, the banks at the end of each day have to post to the regulators' balance sheet with certain tests, right? And so there is visibility out there. That's why the regulators jumped in on Silicon Valley Bank on not just a crashing stock price. They jumped in on because the run on the bank, it's actually, they were almost kind of blind to the public activity because they look at the sheet at the end of the day and they're like, sweet Jesus, you know, these guys are dead. And the regulators can only jump in on the regulatory violation. And so that's when it happened. And when there was a $42 billion request, and then all of a sudden they're negative $958, just under $1 billion at the end of the day. And they're like, okay, not only have you flipped the circuit breaker, you flipped all of them, you know, and here we come. And so that happens every day.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.